I'm a bi Muslim girl. What if I fell in love with a girl and wanted to marry her? Being gay and Muslim, is that curable, quote unquote?
Islam has its laws, right? I mean, there are certain, again, Islam has its guidelines, right? So there are certain things in Islam which are prohibited and forbidden. Again, so in Islam, there's one concept I want to speak about before we touch on this, right? We have a concept which is hate the sin, not the sinner, right? So we say that a person who's indulging in a certain sin, right? A person who's drinking alcohol, a person who's doing drugs, whatever it may be, that person, we never hate the individual, right? That's the rules of Islam. We never hate the individual. We don't like the sin or what they're involved in, right? So that's the premise behind all of this, right? Now, as for the act of homosexuality or whatever it may be, right? A person may like the opposite gender, but again, in Islam, that's prohibited, right? And that's clear cut.
The same gender.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, the same gender, right? A person may like the same gender, and obviously, I mean, that's prohibited in Islam. So there's no really leeway for that, So if you do like someone from the from the same gender, I guess just keep it to yourself and try to work through it. If it's possible, work through it. Again, that's another whole lengthy discussion as well. How you can overcome homosexuality or whatever it may be. But again, this is a touchy subject. But at the end of the day, this is what Islam teaches. Islam teaches this. At the same time, Islam also teaches that compassion and love for each and every single human being. Again, anyone who is indulging in homosexuality, it's not like we don't like them. Again, we have to make that distinction, right? We don't hate or dislike them as an individual. We just don't like that act which they're doing. Right?
What about the last part where she says, like, I've heard this from different people. Is it curable? Like, I've heard that, different imams will say, like, I can cure them of their homosexuality. Like, what does that mean? Is that a real thing?
Or, like, you need to pray more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes they'll say that, like, oh, you just don't pray enough. You need to, like, look for God for guidance.
I mean, it's just from what we can see, it's an indulgence type thing. It's a sin. I mean, for our, in Islam, it teaches that, it's a sin, right? So all sins, obviously, you can stay away from them, and to a degree where you don't fall for that sin again. You know what I mean? Like, for example, other sins, I don't want to compare it to different other sins, but each and every single sin is different, right? But this particular sin, we would say that maybe there is a cure for it. I can't cure it, I don't know the cure for it, I don't even know if there is a cure for it, right? But I'm just saying that the guidelines of Islam are that homosexuality is a sin. We don't dislike the people who commit the sin, right? We just dislike the sin itself. And
for some reason with this one, it feels like it's the one that it's like, you can be Muslim. There's people that are Muslim and they drink, and there's Muslims that have premarital sex, and like the list goes on. But like for some reason, it just seems like we look at people that are Muslim and gay as like you can't be those two things, and then like once you're one of those things, like you can't go back or something. So is it? I mean, you're saying it is a sin, but like, is it possible to be those two things and still
be Muslim
turn
and
to
gay
Allah for
or
guidance and things? Like,
So again, yes, I did mention it's a sin. So it's not separate from the religion. Meaning, a person, like you said, a person can be Muslim, and being gay does not take that person out of the religion. And that's something which we need to understand. Many people, they feel like a person's gay or a person's whatever it may be, and that's it. They're done. We can't be friends or whatever it may be, or we can't. They're not Muslims anymore. But that's not the case. A person, even though they're gay or whatever it may be, they're that's their personal choices and decisions which they obviously have. But again, at the end of the day, that doesn't remove them from the fold of Islam. And Islam doesn't say, okay, you know what, you're gay and that's it, you're gone. No. Islam obviously, like, again, it's a sin, and we dislike the sin itself, but we don't dislike the person, and we don't kick the person out of, nor can we kick the person out of the fold of Islam. Who are we to judge a person and say he's Muslim or non-Muslim?
I had a second part.
Okay.
Is like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard a big part why it's a sin is because you're not supposed to have like intercourse for leisure purposes. Like, it's only supposed to be to reproduce, right? Is that like a big part of it, or?
I mean, so obviously
and
there's...
is that true?
I don't know.
So obviously, there are certain wisdoms, maybe, right, behind a certain ruling, right? For example, right, alcohol being prohibited. There's a reason behind it, and the reasons are clear. You know, a person gets drunk, a person does different things, which a person in his normal state of mind would not do, right? So obviously, you know, a person won't drive drunk, you know. So these are just wisdoms. Okay, these are the wisdoms behind not being able to drink, right? But the prohibition of alcohol is not based on that wisdom. You know, the prohibition of alcohol is based on the commandment of Allah. I hope, you know, it's not too difficult or not too, you know, deep, but basically the prohibition is from Allah. So we believe Allah said this, that's it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Now everything else is just wisdoms behind that we may understand. But at the end of the day, it's the wisdom of Allah, which is complete and pure. And of course, this is just one thing. Again, Islam is a beautiful religion. The more you look at it, the more you study it, the more you learn about the religion, you'll just fall in love with it. There are certain people who take one aspect of the religion and they focus so much on that one aspect, and they don't even try to learn about the rest of the religion, or they think it's a non-negotiable factor, and that's it, you know. As opposed, okay.
I'm thinking of the girl who asked this question, and I'm wondering if one of her questions might be, well, if it is a sin and, you know, I'm not supposed to indulge in or whatever, if God made me this way, then how am I not supposed to partake? I'm supposed to obey God, but God made me this way. What would you say to her?
So Allah Ta'ala God has given us different Allah Ta'ala has given us Allah Himself says in فَأَلْهَمَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, Allah says that Allah inspired us with the righteous path and the wrong path, meaning Allah told us about both paths, meaning Allah Ta'ala has given us the choice to decide which path we want to choose, right? So now we can't blame Allah or God saying that God made me this way, that's why I'm going to do this. That's just, you know, blaming Allah. Okay, Allah's made me this way, that's why I'm, you know, I am who I am, you know. As opposed to a person saying that, listen, this is my choice, I choose to take this path, I choose to you know, do what I'm doing, you know. And yeah, of course, a person has different desires, you know, not everyone's the same. People have different desires to do different things. Some people, they love playing video games for hours on end, you know. Another person may see that and think, oh wow, this person's crazy. Now that person can say, I blame God for making me love video games so much, you know what I mean? That's your personal choice.
Like Dawar, our cameraman.
Yeah, so
I
so
think we could
personal
go on
choice.
about this topic for a long time, and then like even just thinking about the existence of gay churches and stuff, I don't even know like where you could take this topic, but for the sake of moving on,